Morning, guys. Today we're introduced to Wayne Dyer, and he opens up with a quote that I love. He says, "There are no accidents. We all come into this life with a purpose, and it is up to us to find that purpose, that music he calls within us, and bring it out to the world and share it with the world." If you live your life in a way where you don't think there's any meaning, any purpose, it completely makes everything around you meaningless. And that's not the case. We all know deep down inside, we have had experiences, we have had things happen to us where we know and have felt that that was no accident. And it was always up to us what we did with that, the meaning that we assigned to it. So find out your purpose. It's number one. You got to know what it is that drives you, and you need to share that with the world. It'll bring you your true happiness and fulfillment. Have a great morning, everyone.
And I was wondering, how do you decide what you invest your time and money in?
Yeah, well, I like to find businesses that have good economics. Now, what are good economics? Well, good economics are a business that has some kind of a moat around it that makes its product or its service or its location or something a little more desirable to the customer than any other sort of comparable product. The number one candy bar in the last 30 or 40 years has been Snickers. People don't fool around with different candy bars. They fool around with different length dresses. They fool around, with all kinds of things. But they don't fool around with candy bars because they figure, they're going to go in and lay out 50 cents or whatever it is and put it in their mouth. And they're not going to, for 50 cents and putting it in your mouth, you're not going to say, I'll lay out 45 cents and put something else in my mouth. So you find that very stable. And we like businesses that we think we can figure out where they're going to be in 10 or 15 years. I don't know where the information technology businesses are going to be in 10 or 15 years. I know where Snickers bars are going to be in 10 or 15 years. They're going to be selling just about the way they do now. I know where Wrigley's gum is going to be in 10 or 15 years. There's not going to be a lot of innovation in chewing gum. The internet's not going to cause people to quit chewing gum either. Gates may think so, but I don't think so. But it's predictability regarding the sustainability of a competitive advantage, something special about a product.
Okay, so Warren Buffett was all about think long term. I totally agree with Warren Buffett because there's two things in there. One is you got to have a vision. So when you're thinking long term, you're having a vision, not for just today, but for the future, for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And also he talked about having more of a lifestyle. So if you're going to think long term, you got to think of the lifestyle aspect of it and also the vision aspect of it. And I think that's what a lot of people miss sometimes, because when you can think long term or have a vision, then you can attach your identity to that, and it makes it easier to have a lifestyle.
What was the lifestyle point he made?
Because he's talking about Snickers, and people make up their decision, or they don't have to think about it because it's part of their lifestyle. And Snickers is a household brand name, and we all know the commercial. Snickers, it satisfies you. So you use Snickers as a example when he's talking about long term. We don't think about Snickers as brand recognition. We know it, we love it, and don't change the taste of it, and it fits our lifestyle. Especially when we want more energy.
Questionable about the energy, but okay.
Oh, Snickers give you energy. When I was in college and I needed energy for my next class, all I did was eat a Snickers candy bar. Boom, I was ready to go.
All right, boom! Drew, what do you got?
Well, so in the context of Snickers, he was really talking about like the moat that it has built. It obviously has a lot of brand recognition, and it is something that people have maybe positioned in their lifestyle as something that they tend to go to. But what he primarily said in the clip was how, because that it's a factor of lifestyle, you can actually predict how it's going to perform over the long term. So whereas at the point in time when this film was done in 1999, tech companies were just getting started, coming out of the gate. There was a lot of hype and belief around it being the future, but it didn't have it hadn't proved itself out. Obviously, in hindsight, as we look here in 2022, obviously it worked out for a lot of companies, but obviously you had the tech bust, and Warren and his investing style, the way that he looks at everything is how do I ensure that when I am buying this company or a piece of this company, how do I look at it from the perspective of I'm going to hold on to this thing forever, and how is that company going to sustain over the long term as opposed to just being the fad of the day.
Yeah, I think as entrepreneurs, what we need to figure out is what pieces of what we're doing will be around for a long time, because we don't have established businesses, right? We don't have a giant moat around their business yet. We don't have, decades of brand built in. That's what Warren Buffett's looking at buying. So what do we have? We've got a mission that should never change, right? I mean, I'm trying to solve the world's biggest problem. I'm going to be helping entrepreneurs believe in themselves forever. The way I do that might change and adjust over time, but that mission that I'm on will never change. And so that's an easy starting point. Like, what is the mission? What's the world that you're trying to create that no matter what happens, what new technology comes out, you're now 95 years old and you still care about what, right? Figuring that out can be really helpful. The second thing is, what are some of the skills you can develop that will serve you for the long run? So as an example for me, the ability to speak into a camera will serve me for a long time. Whether it's still my iPhone and we're sitting in a hotel room in Vegas with Zane and Drew in 10 years, 20 years making content like this, or it's something else, right? I just filmed a VR course for my book Built to Serve, and that's still me just talking to a camera. And so the ability to be able to communicate a message into a lens will serve me for a very long time. And so breaking down in your own business, what are some of the elements that if you got really good at this skill, paired with your mission, will set you up for success for a very long time, because you don't have enough predictability yet in your business, because a lot can change because you're just starting up. So I think that's how I would apply the advice, is what are the long-term elements between your mission and the skills that you can learn that can help you best set yourself up for long-term success.
Love it.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
The best
Good afternoon, guys. I just want to share with you one of the most valuable pieces of wisdom from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it is this: private victory must come before public victory. And for me, this means we have to possess ourselves. We have to possess our mind, control and master that before we can share that and expect anything else around us to change. So before our public situation changes, before our relationships with people change for the better, we have to win ourselves. We have to conquer ourselves through the power of our mind and our thoughts. And so I challenge you to think about your life. When something happens, and get ready, it might be today, right now, something outside of you, someone does something or says something, remember, you're the one that gets to choose that response. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
The very thing we used our whole life to get what we want, for something greater to happen.
Absolutely.
That's such a paradox. And the moment you step in, it honors free will. So then the person who's the new age person who's saying, well, I'm just going to wait for my Maserati to come to me. This is not how that works. Once you move into a new state of being and you're creating wealth, in other words, only gold creates gold. Lead doesn't create gold. And our job is to take those base emotions of anger and resentment and fear and anxiety, those base emotions, and transmute them into gold. Because right on the other side of our pain is freedom. Right on the other side of our lack is wealth or abundance. Right on the other side of our fear is courage. It's the same energy. It's just trapped in the body. And when we transmute that energy into something else, right? Now we have available energy to begin to design a destiny with. So then a person who moves into that elegant state of being where they're expanded and they're enriched and they're in love with life, then they can't go back to the old self, because that is their new state of being. So then if you practice that every day, sooner or later it's going to begin to become familiar to you.
And you may feel it, you may see things, you may hear from it. I mean, there are means of communications that can be set up. It's going through that process.
So then if you're creating wealth,
yes,
and you're in the state of being of abundant, you better not be thinking lacking thoughts, because an abundant person would never do that.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and use the law of attraction to manifest some money. Enjoy. Rule number 2, know what you really want with Bob Proctor.
What do you want them to do? Who do you want them to be? Where would you like them to start?
I'd like them to ask themselves, what do I really want in this life? What do I really want? And take a pen and write it down. What do I really want in this life? They might start out, what do I love doing? I think that's where you start your purpose in life, is what do you love? I'm living my purpose. See, your purpose is why you're alive, why you get out of bed in the morning. And some people never figure that out. They never even give it any thought, when it's probably the most important question a person can ask themselves. If you start out, what do I really love doing? That's a good place to start. Do you know, I had a doctor here, probably a couple of years ago now in Phoenix. He was in a seminar and he said, he was telling me he was thinking of quitting the medical profession. I said, why are you going to quit? Well, he said, you got to put in a lot more time to earn less money today. And I said, well, I've heard that. He said, the medical profession's all messed up. I said, well, I've heard that too. I said, why did you become a doctor? Well, he said, I love it. I said, why would you want to quit? Well, he said, because you can't earn. I said, wait a minute. I said, if you're doing what you love, if you never earned a dime, you're spending your days doing what you love to do. That's the trick of life. I said, your problem is you think you earn money by going to work. You work to earn money. You don't work to earn money. The people who earn the most money don't work at all. You earn money by providing service, but you gain satisfaction from doing what you love. And there's two forms of income. One satisfaction, the other is money. It's a material thing. But I said, if you're not getting satisfaction from what you do, you should quit it. Because I said, that's where it comes in. That's why we should figure out what we love to do and then dedicate our life to it. I got into this business. I had been studying it for quite a while, and I had the opportunity, I already mentioned, of visiting Earl Nightingale in 1966. And I was leaving his office right at the end, and I said, Earl, what is the big deal in life? Well, he said, there isn't any big deal, Bob. He said, it's simply a matter of sitting and figuring out what you love to do and then dedicate your life to it. So the problem with most people is they never figure out what they love to do. Well, I'm telling you, I could feel the hair going up in the back of my neck. I knew exactly what I'd love to do. I would love to do what he was doing, and I wanted to do it with him. I had a very busy company at the time. We were operating in Canada, the U.S., and England. But I knew that I was finished doing that. I was going to come back. I was going to work with him. 2 years later, I was his vice president of sales. I wanted to do what he was doing, be in the business he was in. And that's where I made the decision. And I love it. I love what I do. Now, That's what people should be doing. What do I love to do? Then dedicate your life to it. Now, you earn money by providing service. You can earn money while you're sleeping. Just figure out how to serve people. You don't have to be there. You don't have to physically be there and do it. You can serve people while you're sleeping and get paid. And that's how you earn money. So you got to learn how to earn money. But that has got nothing to do with a life of living what you love. That's the first place. So if I was telling anybody, sit down, figure out what you love to do, and then make up your mind you're going to dedicate your life to it. What stops most people, what they love to do, they think you can't earn any money at it. That doesn't matter. Forget about the money. That's another subject. Figure out how to earn it. Go talk to people who know how to earn money. I know how to earn money. I can teach people how to earn money. But that is not the thing. It's to provide service. So the most important thing, what do I love to do? Sit down. What would I really love to do? How would I love to spend my life? That's what we should do. And unfortunately, most people never get involved in that exercise.
Rule number 3, rewire your brain with Bruce Lipton.
How do you rewire your brain?
Well, as we just said, the first thing you have to do is say, what the heck are my programs? You don't have to fix a program if it works. The only one you want to fix is the one that doesn't work. So then you say, well, what are the programs? And I can already tell you, the things that don't work in your life that you desire to have in your life, and you are creating an effort and a struggle and a lot of work to make it happen, the reason why it's not working is because somewhere in the program, it doesn't support that conclusion. So this program does not allow you to have this. So the thing is, well, as long as I have this program, I'm never going to get this. And even if I get it, it's going to disappear if I, as soon as I let go of the control, it's going to disappear because the subconscious will take it away. So the first thing is identify, well, where are you having trouble? And I say, whatever that destination is, that the thing you were looking for, whether it was a job, health, relationship, whatever, if that's where you're having a trouble, recognize this. The program is counter to that. It's the opposite. The program is the opposite. That's why this can't stay here, because this is going to 95% of the day create a different program, not the one you wanted.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4, manifest effortlessly with Rhonda Byrne.
One of the things is we've all been driven to achieve and, struggle to get somewhere, and you've got to work really hard, to get money. There's a belief, no, you don't, that's not the case all of the time at all. And so we like struggle and pushed and effort. And the most extraordinary thing is this, is that the more effortless you are, the greater you manifest everything that you ever dreamt of.
Yes.
Because when you have effort, you are saying, I don't have this, you're saying, I don't have it. And the universe hears, I don't have it, And so when you're efforting, you're like, I don't have it. I'm not worthy enough. I need to work harder. I need to really struggle. But if you are just completely effortless, everything just comes because there's no resistance stopping any of it.
There's a lot of, I'm a big fan of this, but I also understand the principle of working hard as an athlete. I would have to wake up early, train to grow, and learn my craft and put in, years of practice. That was hard work. I got to grow my muscles. It's not growing, effortlessly at that age. So and some business owners will say, the key to building a successful business is, working hard, building the right team, but showing up consistently every day.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that thought around hard work and for a lot of people?
As an athlete, then you would definitely know those times when you perform brilliantly,
and it was effortless.
Where you
Right. It was effort. You're in the zone. You're in the
Well,
flow.
you're in the zone, you're in the flow.
Yeah.
It's just extraordinary, you know. It's like something is moving your body. You're not, it's just like you, it's the most incredible thing. And actors too have the same experience. They will have this moment when they're on stage or acting, and suddenly the ego is not there and they are just flowing. Like, it is incredible. And I heard an actor talk about that and say all actors crave for that moment, you know. And so because effort comes from the ego and from the mind. That's where it all comes from. So we can do and achieve and have all of those things without all of that effort. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the difference between, I guess, there's still a level of needing to master your craft though, right? Like you became a great producer and a director and creator. That doesn't come after 2 days of not working on your craft, right? Because you worked on your craft for a decade or two until you had the skill set, the knowledge, the wisdom to then put out what you needed to.
You're still doing things. And this is the thing, because being effortless doesn't mean you're not doing things. What it means is there's no effort in what you're doing. So so you're still doing things, but it's effortless. Like you were still working out, but it was effortless. And so, because the minute you feel like you're struggling, that's the mind and that's the ego stepped in, and then it's not flowing, you know, and people will find when they're struggling, you know, there's that goes wrong and then that goes wrong and that goes wrong. And so you still do things. And I still did all of those things. Like before The Secret, I did everything with effort, full effort, 1000%.
Hard work, full effort. Yeah.
Total queen of effort.
And you were lacking, abundance, and you were lacking big results. And
yeah. And so now I do, like, I sat down to do this book. This book was absolutely effortless.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. The most effortless book that I have written, for sure. I mean, amazing, really amazing. And so when I was writing I wrote The Secret in 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks?
Because it just like, wow. Because I'd made the documentary, I'd done all these practices. I knew what I wanted to share, all of the things that I wanted to share in The Secret. And so, I mean, we spent, you know, about 6 weeks in the editing process of it, but it just came like a rush. And that 2.5 weeks was effortless. And when I did this book, it was effortless. And there have been books that I've gone to write where it's been a lot of effort.
Really?
You know, yeah. And I just have to stop, because I remember I wrote a book and I never published it, and it was all effort, and it was
forcing it. You were
forcing it. And so then what you're writing about is you're just writing a whole lot of recycled stuff that the mind is turning up, and you are not receiving things from beyond the mind, and you want to have things beyond the mind.
Rule number 5, clear negative thoughts with Gabby Bernstein.
If you're in a negative place, you're not going to immediately start attracting horrible things into your life, but the cumulative effect of that negativity starts to, 1, block what you really want, and 2, obviously create more disturbances. So we, through the power of our thoughts and our belief systems, our actions and our words, we can claim a new energy, a new feeling, really, a new way of feeling. That feeling is what supports our attracting power or blocks it. There's 2 levels of showing up for your negative thoughts. One level is the reprogramming process, which I can talk about, which I refer to as a process that I've coined the Choose Again method, which I'll teach. And another one is doing, like I said, deeper therapeutic practices, going and finding that internal family systems therapist, or that person who does EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I can explain all of these, and going in and doing deeper, truly neuro, like really changing your neural pathways and undoing the habitual effects of the fight, flight, freeze response.
Yeah.
So it's both. And many people can start that journey of undoing their thought forms through practices that they find in self-help books like Super Attractor. So I think I'm like a gateway to deeper, further modalities. I'm not a therapist, although I have had decades of deep dive therapy. So I am a very seasoned therapized human. but I wanted to talk about it from those two levels, because level one is starting to notice the negative thoughts. And this is the choose again method that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
Notice those negative thoughts that you have on repeat. And the first step is to notice the thought and how it makes you feel. And this is such a big, brave step of just becoming aware and conscious of the negative thought forms that are standing in your way. And so that's step one, notice and how does it make you feel? The second step is to forgive yourself for having the thought, because when we have a thought that we keep thinking, as Abraham Hicks says, it becomes a belief. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So if you forgive yourself and say, oh my God, there's just that thought I keep thinking again, I forgive myself, that step takes the pressure off, and it separates you, the individual, from the thought. Oh, that's just a thought I keep thinking. It's not who I am. Got that, step two. And then step three is the fun part, which is to reach for the next best feeling thought. So if the negative thought is, I gained 17 pounds this year. So let's use that negative thought. I gained 17 pounds this year doing IVF for a year. When you're on medication every single day for 365 days, you're going to gain weight. And so I gained a lot of more weight than I've gained other than being pregnant. And for someone who isn't accustomed to that, and so I don't want to be in any way insensitive, because many people struggled with this their entire lives, and they're going to be like, screw you, Gabby, you have one time in your life where this is a struggle, F off. But it was, I'm a woman.
Right.
So here I was, and I had gained the 17 pounds, and, people were like saying things on the internet, like, what did you do to your face? And like, you look like you've put too much filler in. And I'm like, I gained 17 pounds. And so what did I do to choose again? So notice the thought and how it makes me feel. Well, it makes me feel frustrated and it keeps coming back. Forgive myself for having the thought. Okay, so that is a thought that I keep thinking, and it's not, I can forgive myself completely for that thought. Step three, choose again. So here's how I would choose again in that case. All right, Gabby, listen, you didn't look that great when you were underweight. So let's be grateful for some of these extra pounds. And you know what, Gabby, now you have a healthier baseline. So maybe you don't want to be at 17 pounds, maybe you want to be 10 pounds more than you were before. And you know what, you were doing this in the pursuit of making a child, and your body needs more weight on your body to conceive. And you're a 41-year-old woman, and how amazing it is that you have the resources to be able to have insurance to do this process and to be able to go through this. And what a privilege and a luxury. And, even though it's been frustrating, you had so much fun while you were driving to these hour away appointments, but it was the only time that I got out of the house for COVID. And it was the time that I was really studying and learning new things. And I could keep going and going and going. So do you see how I'm talking about it? And there's nothing negative anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like, that was a great process. This is okay. And now I can have fun cleansing and clearing and see myself getting back to a healthy place, and just really thinking your way out, talking your way out.
And rule number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is visualize the steps with Mel Robbins.
You must visualize the steps that lead you to the thing that you want, not the end goal. This is a major mistake that people make. They manifest improperly because all they do is focus on the end goal. If you've ever made a vision board, think about what you put on the vision board. You put up just the beach house or the $1 million in the bank, or you crossing the finish line, or you launching that business, or you having the body that you want, or you driving the Maserati, whatever it is. The end goal is what you put up on a vision board. That is not what you're going to do when you manifest. If you start focusing on crossing the finish line of the marathon, that is a one-way ticket to being unmotivated and completely discouraged. In fact, research shows that if all you do is focus on the thing that you want, and you just focus on that vision of you and your bikini body, or you with the love of your life on your arms, or you at the Oscars winning that award, or the Grammys, what happens is, because you've only focused on the end goal, you start to feel really unmotivated and discouraged because you're nowhere near it. That's where manifesting comes in, because we're not going to focus on the end goal. You got to pick something that you want in order to get started. But manifesting isn't about the end, it's about the bridge. It's about going from where you are here to where you want to go. Imagine that there is a bridge that connects where you are right here with what you dream about doing. Now, that dream could be to be a Grammy Award winning singer-songwriter. That dream might be to have a family of your own. That dream might be to have a beach house or a ski house or to take a trip to Fiji. That dream can be whatever the hell you want it to be. But when it comes to manifesting, once you've given yourself permission to dream with the lid off and really want what you want, to feel the pull of that thing, now we got to talk about the path that connects where you are with where you want to go. And this is all about visualizing the little steps. There's a lot of research that proves why visualizing the steps is the most important thing that you could do. There was a study done at UCLA, for example, where they were researching manifestation and the power of visualization, and they broke students into two groups. And they had Group A, we're going to call these the vision board group. They had Group A close their eyes, visualize in their mind, and feel in their body themselves taking the test and then walking up to a board where the test's scores were posted and finding their name and seeing an A+. That's what Group A, the vision board group, were told to do, to visualize themselves achieving what they wanted. Group B, we're going to call these the hard workers. These students were coached in this research project to close their eyes and to visualize going back to their dorm room, sitting down at the desk, and studying, and staying up late, and putting in the work, studying and preparing for the tests. Now let me ask you a question. Which group do you think did better on the actual test? Was it Group A, the vision board group, who were taught to visualize and picture themselves walking up to a board and seeing the A+? Or was it Group B, the hard work group, the group that was taught to close their eyes and visualize and seeing themselves doing the work to study for the test? Well, if you answered Group A, you're wrong. If you answered Group B, you got the correct answer. The reason why Group B, the students who visualized studying for the test, got better test scores, is because when you visualize yourself doing the work, visualizing it leads you to doing the work. And it's only through actions that you will get the result that you want. Preparing your mind and visualizing yourself doing it lowers your resistance and leads to you taking the action. That's why manifesting works.
Good evening, guys. I want to share with you a personal story to highlight how living, laughing, and loving our way to infinite mind wealth can produce some amazing, funny, and deep things. Last week, I was talking to my daughters. We were sharing our dreams, and I was asking them what their dreams were, and they were asking me as well. And then we got to my younger daughter who posed the question. She said to me, "Daddy, is it possible to fulfill your dream, live your dream, and have a family?" And I thought, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. And what made me feel good is the way I responded, because this is how I feel, and I love it. I said, "Absolutely, honey." I said, "It's possible to have a family and live your dream." I said, "Look at Daddy. I have a family, a beautiful family, and I'm living my dream of trying to become my greater self and help other people do the same. And it feels so good." So I just wanted to share that with you and tell you you can live your dream and have a family. Have a great evening, everyone.
Most number one, they get up in the morning and the first thing they do is they think about the problems in their life. And those problems are memories from the past. So the moment they think about their problems, they're thinking in the past, right? Every one of those problems has an emotion attached to them, so they start feeling unhappy or unworthy or whatever. And how you think and how you feel is your state of being. So most people's entire state of being is in the past when they start the day. So if they're in the familiar past, they're going to live in a predictable future, right? So they get up and they check their cell phone, they check their text, their WhatsApp, their Facebook, they post something on Facebook, they tweet, they Twitter, they check the news, then they go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, take a shower, get dressed, check more emails, drive to work the same way, do the same thing. So they're in a program. They've actually lost their free will to the program.
Wow.
So if you start your day and you start your day with this simple question, what is the greatest ideal of myself that I can be today? You ask yourself that question. Now listen, your body's gonna go like, well, we gotta get a cup of coffee and you gotta I'm tired, yeah. And you gotta go, body, you're not the mind, I'm the mind right now. You're gonna sit here, I'm gonna feed you. You're gonna get your coffee, you're gonna do all those things, but right now, this is my time. You're gonna obey me, right? So now, the body's no longer the mind, you're the mind. And so when it wants to get up and you become aware of it, and return back to the present moment, every time you do, that's a victory. Wow. And you're changing some aspect of yourself. So then, ask yourself, I do this all the time, write down 4 thoughts that you're gonna stay conscious of the whole day. I can't, it's too hard. You'd be surprised the moment you become conscious of what those thoughts are, how unconscious you've been to them all day, for weeks on end. Write down what you speak, how you speak, 4 things you want to change, how you act. How do you act? Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? That's a victim consciousness. What emotions do you live by? Is it possible that you're so used to living by guilt you don't even know it's guilt, it just feels like you? Do you allow your energy to drop? Become conscious of those states of mind and body and review them and say, this is the old self. Then say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? And start firing and wiring and start feeling it. What behaviors will I demonstrate today? What choices will I make? One day, one lifetime. Just like you did, rehearse them. Rehearse the whole entire thing. Yeah. Begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain. And if you keep installing it, the hardware is going to become a software program. And you're going to start thinking and acting that way. And then here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what your future is going to feel like before it's made manifest? And don't get up until you feel that way.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Dr. Joe Dispenza, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, always keep learning.
I think the first thing is to learn. Every time you learn, you make new connections in your brain, and learning is making those connections. And I was joking with my staff this week. I said, nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads. Nobody reads anything. Learn information. Why? Because we found out that in our events, if you can be present and not look at your cell phone or not talk about your past, but be present with the content, and I can combine quantum physics with neuroscience, with neuroendocrinology, with psychoneuroimmunology, mind-body connection, epigenetics, electromagnetism. You can really get it. Like, you could give me the nod, and then I say, okay, I'm looking at an audience of 1,500, 1,600 people. Okay, well, turn to the person next to you and teach it back to them. If you can't explain that, it's not wired in your brain, and you'll doubt that it's possible, and you'll do something differently. Okay, if you can explain it, then you're causing your brain to fire in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations. Whenever you make your brain work differently, you're changing your mind. Why? Because mind is the brain in action. So you keep reminding yourself of this. Now, it's easier to forget this than remember it. You know, it takes practice. You can't get it in one bite. It's a learning process, right? So now you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain in preparation for the experience. So knowledge is the precursor to the experience, right? Without the knowledge and the information, it's conjecturous, right? So the more you understand the what in the terms of what you're doing and the why you're doing it, the application, the practical aspect, the how becomes exciting, like, oh, I'm going to get it. As an example, you can take someone and throw them in an ice bath. They have no knowledge of what that can do. And then because they have no knowledge, the ice bath is actually going to cause them harm. Right? You take that person, you can teach them a few things and put them in a nice bath and actually be instrumental. They'll actually gain value from it. Well, the prefrontal cortex, the one that said, now you got to make this valuable. You can take a person and you can put them in an environment and they can perceive the environment as a problem. And you can measure their autonomic response and it'll weaken their autonomic response. You can take that person and have them perceive it as a challenge and it'll actually strengthen their autonomic response. Okay, so now what's the reason behind this? Well, you gotta put as much tension on your inner world of how you're thinking and how you're feeling and how you're gonna behave as much as your outer world of three-dimensional reality. And meditation is just a way to say, okay, let me get my brain and body right. I'm going to present Ed Mylett to the world today. I got one lifetime, one Groundhog Day, one day. I just want something different, something unusual, something mystical, some sign from the universe that I created. And I wanted to come in a way that I would never think of. That would be the unknown, because if I can predict it, it's the known. Okay, before I get up and grab my phone and do all my things and get plugged back into my known world, let me just say, okay, who do I no longer want to be? I want to become so conscious that I won't go unconscious again. The fundamental question is, how many times am I going to forget until I stop forgetting and start remembering? That is the moment. There's nothing mystical about this. This is the work. And then you're going to say, okay, who do I want to be when I open my eyes? Okay, let me think about this. How would greatness live? I don't know. Read a book on greatness. Read a book on Nelson Mandela. You want to be wealthy? Read about wealthy people. And you're going to see that they didn't just make their wealth. They lost a ton of money and failed a million times. And that's reality. Okay, well, what were the qualities? They had perseverance. They had determination. They cut their losses. They forgave. They forgot about it. They went on. Okay, so how am I going to behave? Let me rehearse how I'm going to behave. What I'm going to do, let me take my time. I have plenty of time to do this. Let me just behave. Let me think about how I'm going to behave differently in this situation. How am I going to change my emotional response? When did I fall from grace yesterday and went back to my old self? I'll set an alarm on my phone every 3 hours. I'm just gonna go off and I'm gonna take a moment and get back into the feelings of my future. Okay, if I can do that over and over again, well, what do you think could happen in my life as a result of it? So, knowledge being the forerunner, the application. Simple stuff. Practice heart coherence. There's plenty of stuff that we can talk about. Practice brain coherence. We know. I asked the brain scientists, what percentage of people at the end of a week-long event, what percentage of people will have their brains changed for the better? They said 100%, 100%. 1 week, fully immersed into the experience. You practice it every day. Now, you can't do it once or twice and say, why isn't my bank account full? You know what I'm going to tell you? You're not that good. Yeah. That's the only reason why. Yeah. If you were that good, it would happen. You're not that good. So show up again and show up again and keep showing up. And I just was talking to a staff member today. The universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving, right? So then people who show up for themselves every day,
believe they're worthy.
They start feeling pretty damn worthy. Yeah. Like they're like, I'm worthy for this. Not like an entitlement way. Like something. They just like, I feel like it's gonna happen. I'm worthy for it.
Rule number 3: change your inner state.
I learned a lot about expectation when I was studying the placebo. It's amazing how you can give someone a sugar pill or a saline injection or perform some false surgery or treatment, and a certain percentage of those people will accept, believe, and surrender to the thought that it's actually the truth without analyzing it, that they're getting an actual real substance. And their body begins to manufacture the very pharmacy of chemicals that causes them to heal by thought alone. So the question is it the inert exogenous substance that's doing the healing, or is it the body's innate capacity to heal? So everybody has been conditioned to a certain degree, whether we like it or not, to rely on something outside of us to change our inner state. And so when a person's given a pill and it's blue on one side and red on the other, and they take it and they notice a change in their internal state. My pain has gone away, I'm sleeping better, whatever it is. And when they notice that change in their internal state, they pay attention to what caused it and they start to associate and condition. So if you keep doing that over and over again,
that pill becomes a symbol of them to change their physiology. So if you take that pill and you replace it with something that's inert, and they see that pill, based on conditioning, when they take that pill, conditioning based on the past, they begin to expect that outcome to happen again. And the expectation of the outcome is simply marrying a possibility, an intention, a vision of a future outcome, a new possibility in the quantum field. And if the doctor's enthusiastic and you name the substance something that you can't pronounce and you charge a lot of money for it, and you use a name that rhymes with something that could actually, you could associate as a known, Niagara and Viagra, there's a strong correlation. It's a lot of flow. And so people are conditioned to expect an outcome. So when they start to expect the outcome, the marrying of that clear intention, if the person is optimistic, if the person is enthusiastic, if the person is grateful for the outcome, a combination of that clear intention combined with the elevated emotion begins to change the body's physiology for them to manufacture their own pharmacy of antidepressants, their own pharmacy of morphines or pain relievers, their own pharmacy of dopamine by thought alone. So the question is, do you need the exogenous substance to change your state of being, or can you change your state of being by thought alone? And by the same means, if you give a person a prognosis and you tell them that in the chemotherapy treatments, you are going to get really nauseous and sick. They've done research on this. 50% of the people on their drive to the chemotherapy treatment start to get nauseous in anticipation of the event taking place. So the question is, can 50% of the people get well on their drive to work, or they're on their drive to their doctor in anticipation of getting the right treatment? In your studies with the Power of 8, if the person can assign meaning to the value of what they're doing, and they can see, oh my God, energy can actually inform matter. Okay, that sounds like something that makes sense. Give me the quantum understanding. And you get a collective group of people, and we're discovering that collective networks of observers determine reality. And you can get them in a very specific state, and the person who's receiving the healing understands the value of what's taking place, the expectation of what's about to happen. If they're in a state of gratitude, it's kind of an interesting thing, gratitude. When we receive something, when we've just received something favorable, when something's happening to us that we really enjoy, or something just happened to us that surprises us, we feel gratitude. So the emotional signature of gratitude is something's happening to us, or something favorable just happened to it. It is the ultimate state that we receive in. So if the person's in that state of gratitude, then it makes sense then they're more susceptible to information, because we accept, believe, and surrender to information equal to our emotional state. So that can actually program the autonomic nervous system to begin to physiologically change. And that's exactly what Pavlov did with the salivating dogs. Just ring the bell and feed them a meal, and after a while, the anticipation of the event actually causes them to change their body's physiology. Their autonomic nervous system begins to change as if they're actually in the process of eating the meal. The anticipation is preparing for the event ahead of time, and we can use that to so many degrees in our favor.
Rule number 4, reprogram your brain.
The hormones of stress push the genetic buttons that create disease. If you can turn on the stress response just by thought alone, your thoughts could make you sick. And if your thoughts can make you sick, is it possible that your thoughts can make you well? So they began to realize that, oh my God, the repetition of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking caused me to feel guilt. And I don't even know it's guilt. It just feels like me. It's just, I'm used to the same chemical continuity. Now, the moment they decided to change, anytime you decide to change and change anything about yourself, get ready, because it's going to feel uncomfortable.
It's going to hurt.
You're going to leave the known.
Yeah.
You're going to leave the familiar, and you're going to step into the unknown.
Even if the familiar is uncomfortable and painful,
right?
It's still going to be painful leaving the pain.
Right, because some people are super happy being unhappy.
Right.
So then they would rather cling to their suffering than take a chance in possibility. So these people said, I really have nothing to lose, right? So then they said, I'm willing to be uncomfortable and be in the unknown. And it turns out that's the perfect place to create from. So when the body is conditioned to become the mind, then to change is to be greater than the body, right? Because
how do we become greater than the body?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but let me finish this,
Yes.
okay? So the third thing they said was, okay, so now that I know that I got to break the habit of being myself and I can't mismanage my thoughts and feelings, I got to change how I act, I got to watch how I speak, I got to become conscious of how unconscious I am, because 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, like a computer program, emotional reactions, unconscious beliefs and perceptions. So the first step to change is to become conscious of how you think, to notice how you act, to pay attention to how you feel. And the act of observing those states of mind and body separates you from that program. Now you're the consciousness observing that program. And it turns out the more conscious you become of how unconscious you are, lighting a match in a dark place, that first step creates enormous amounts of chaos in the brain and body. And it's disturbing, so people just go back to the same addiction, the same emotion, the same problem. This feels better. No, that feels familiar. So they said, okay, now I got to change. I got to reinvent myself. Now this is really important because they started sitting down and thinking, okay, who in history do I admire? Who are great people, role models that I could follow? What are the qualities and characteristics that they have? How am I going to change? These are what we call frontal lobe questions. The creative center of the brain switches on and the emotional center settles down. So then they started thinking, how would I have to be in a new life if I was really going to heal? What would I have to change about myself? Now, there's this interesting phenomenon that if you close your eyes and you begin to think about doing something, you're an athlete, you understand this. If you're a background in football and you were running a pattern or you were doing something, you would rehearse it in your mind. Yeah. Turns out that the act of mentally rehearsing something when you're truly present, your brain does not know the difference between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. In fact, your brain will begin to look like you've been doing it for the last 5 days and you've never run the course. So now your brain is no longer a record of the past, because typically it is. Now it's a map to the future. So now you're priming your brain. So that became the very platform. Experiments with piano players. You take a group of people that never played the piano before. You divide them into 2 different categories. I take one group of people, you teach them one-handed scales and chords. You do a brain scan on them. They come and practice for 2 hours a day for 5 days. At the end of 5 days, if you rescan the brain, they grow new circuits on the opposite side of the brain. Nothing magical there. You learn something new. Learning's making new connections. Get some instruction. You get instruction. You get your body involved. Get your body involved. You're going to have an experience. Experience enriches the brain. Pay attention to what you're doing. You got to pay attention and repeat it, firing and wiring. You're going to assemble new circuits. You can take the other group of people, have them come for 2 hours a day for 5 days, do a brain scan before, the brain scan after. Have them close their eyes and mentally rehearse playing those scales and chords. At the end of 5 days, they'll grow the same amount of circuits in their brain as the people who actually physically demonstrated the action. What does that mean? It means not only do they change their brain by thinking differently, but their brain looks like they've been playing the piano for 5 days. Now set them in front of a piano. Never played the piano before. They'll play those scales and chords because their brain is wired to play it. So now, the act of rehearsing who they're going to be, what are the qualities, and beginning to get in this creative state, began to lay down the circuits of a new personality. And a new personality is connected to a new personal reality. So the next question is, does that change the body? Take a group of men, have them do one-handed curls in their mind and bring an emotional component like stronger, harder, more intense, 1 hour a day for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, 13.5 increase in muscle strength. Wow. Never lifted a weight. Now their body is changing by thought alone. So these people began to reprogram their brain and body. And all of a sudden, they began to act differently. Why? Because they installed the circuits. They began to think differently, of course. They began to feel differently. They were no longer feeling pain. They're actually liking themselves, right? So then if they're living by a different emotion, and they're feeling an elevated emotion before they're healing, before they were healed, They're not waiting for their healing to feel joy and gratitude. They're feeling gratitude and joy. Now their body's believing that it's healed because the body's feeling the emotion ahead of the experience. And if the environment signals the gene and the end product of an experience in the environment is emotion, you're signaling the gene ahead of the environment. And what do genes do? Genes make proteins. So what are proteins responsible? The structure and function of the body. Now you're literally becoming somebody else. And now you're turning down the genes for disease and you're turning up these other genes. So I started to realize that this reinvention process is exactly what we've always done. It's just that we get complacent in certain areas of our life and we stop.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, get beyond yourself.